Hello and welcome to Your Access Point to Washington. I'm Ayesha Tanzeem. Decades after the war that severed Pakistan and created Bangladesh, the wounds have not healed completely. Bangladesh has once again asked Pakistan to apologize for the alleged atrocities committed by its military in 1971. Is it time for Pakistan to apologize to Bangladesh? Let's find out. Joining me in studios is Yusuf of the United States Institute of Peace. On Skype from Pakistan, we have Ikram Sehgal, a renowned defense analyst and the first Pakistani prisoner of war to escape from India. And on the phone with us is Dr. Zillur Rehman Khan, Professor Emeritus at Wisconsin University and President of the Bangladesh Foundation. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. And I will go with each of you, but I want to bring, first of all, Dr. Zillur Rehman Khan for the Bangladeshi side. Dr. Khan, why do you think now is the right time for Pakistan to apologize to Bangladesh? Dr. Khan, can you hear me? Okay, we can't hear Dr. Khan right now. I'll find out why or why not. But Moeed, Yusuf, is it time for Pakistan to apologize?
Look, I think it's not about the timing. I mean, this is not the first time this request has been made. The real question is, should Pakistan not apologize? And if it's apologizing, does it also expect something in return from Bangladesh in terms of accepting that there were atrocities or there were sort of excesses committed on both sides? Apologies for countries are really sort of symbolic. I don't think anything changes with this. We've never tested the waters in Pakistan, whether there is public support for that. But I think there's enough literature out there which says that things happened on both sides, they were regrettable. And so whether it's an apology, whether it's a regret, I think at this point, it's critical for both sides to move on.
Right.
I think Bangladesh perhaps has to learn from Pakistan's experience, India's experience, not get caught up in one thing which damages future relations. Pakistan has to realize that if it's in the best interest of both sides, perhaps it should find a way which is acceptable to it and to Bangladesh to move forward.
Now, Mr. Ikram Sehgal, I want to ask you, as Moeed just pointed out, Bangladesh should learn and not get caught up on this one thing. And we found out that Bangladesh Prime Minister wasn't coming to the Developing Eight meeting in Islamabad with President Zardari and other countries. It wasn't said officially, but everyone thought it's because she wanted Pakistan to apologize, so she sent somebody else on her behalf. Do you think this issue is affecting relationship in any significant way?
Yes, it is. The fact remains that an apology has been given, and Hasina Wajid asked for an apology earlier also, and I was present at that point with Mia Nawaz Sharif in Dhaka. When in the helicopter we flew to the tomb of the unknown soldier in Savar, and Mia Nawaz Sharif not only apologized, but wreath of the.
Okay, Mr. Sehgal, for some reason, we cannot hear you properly. We only heard part of what you said, so I'll come back to you on that question. Let me talk to Moeed. In the meantime, we'll figure out why we cannot hear you. Moeed, do you think that, what Mr. Sehgal said, that what's happened so far, he's talking about Nawaz Sharif, who went and apologized, Sharaf, and I have what he wrote right here with me, when he visited the memorial outside Dhaka, which is dedicated to those killed, he wrote down, your brothers and sisters in Pakistan share the pain of the events of 1971. The excesses committed during the unfortunate period are regrettable.
Correct. Look, I mean, I think first of all, what Mr. Sehgal is saying is correct. I think the question here is private or public apology. But again, this is diplomacy, this is wordsmithing. Regret, apology, look at what happened when Salala happened, right? It's the same story all over again. The fact of the matter is excesses were committed at the human level. Regrets have been put out. There is some domestic political implications for what the Bangladeshi Prime Minister is doing. There's no question about that. My basic point is, I think too much of South Asian history is caught up in the past. I'm all for doing whatever is required to move forward. But if we keep coming back to something that has happened, something that is not going to change, unfortunately the world is moving forward and South Asia is still stuck in the quagmire which looks back rather than looking forward.
Mr. Sehgal, you're back with us. Please tell us, pick up where you were, where you left off.
Actually, I agree with Moeed Yusuf Saab that, we must not dwell in the past. And actually, in a way, I'm very qualified to speak about this because I'm a witness to that, what happened in March, from 2nd March to 25th March, and part of what happened from 25th March to 7th April. And for very odd reason, I was with the Bangladesh forces, when they were pulling back to the borders from 29th March to 7th April 71, and before I was arrested and handed over to India. So, I have already told you that my father was Punjabi, mother Bengali. I'm very objective. And let me also tell you, and when Dr. Zillur Rehman Khan comes on, he will tell you, by some in Bangladesh also consider me a hero from their point of view. So I'm very objective about it. I think an apology has been rendered not once but twice. I think, with all due respects, Hasina Wajid has been playing to the gallery. And it's time to move on. Left the past, be buried beyond the past. It's not good breaking of the past. I've seen atrocities from 2nd March and 25th March as a helicopter pilot that I hope never to see ever again in my life. And then, of course, from 25th March onwards, again atrocities committed by both sides. You cannot say that one side or another. In the quantum of it, yes, you can say that more atrocities was committed from 25th March to 16 December for the Pakistani side, but what happened from the other side. But who is going to sit down and work out the quantum? The very good book has been written by Sarmila Bose, Dead Reckoning, in which I, in fact, saw part of what the interview she did and how much, research she did into that. And, you have on one side, you have a figure of 3 million people, which is extraordinary, which means about 12,000 people will be killed every day, which would make the Holocaust in Germany seem to be a picnic in comparison. So, I mean, the other side is that, yes, people were killed and there were atrocities. And, one cannot be proud of the fact.
Okay, Mr. Sehgal, okay, so I'm getting your point. Here, and I'll bring Dr. Zillur Rehman in for that. But as Moeed said, when Salalah incident happened, Pakistanis were really stuck on the right word. They didn't, sorry wasn't enough. They wanted an apology. But I'll come to you, Dr. Zillur Rehman. I want to ask you, I don't know how much of what you were able to hear, what Kamran Sehgal said, but do you agree that not once but twice, first by Nawaz Sharif, then by General Pervez Musharraf, and not exactly an apology, but definitely a regret, and an apology by Nawaz Sharif has been rendered, and it's time to move on?
The point is well taken, but I think, because I am a eyewitness to what transpired during that period of time. And the first thing that I got to tell you that I have my experience, which has been presented before U.S. Congress on hearings on Bangladesh, Solar's Committee, 100th Congress, and also I was a member of the Columbia University National Seminar on Bangladesh between 1972 and 74. And there also we discussed in great details what I witnessed. And then I also recorded in my books, one was published by Syracuse University in 1983.
So, Dr. Khan, just to cut it short, Kamran Sehgal agrees that atrocities were committed, and they were committed from both sides, maybe more by one than the other, but atrocities were committed. But he said that it happened from both sides. Pakistani prime ministers and presidents have offered their regret, and it's time for the two countries to not look towards the past, but move on.
The point is well taken, but again, the atrocities on both sides, and I would like to put a footnote there. They were in a selective genocide committed by Pakistan Army. There's no doubt about it. And it's not. I'm quoting my friend Archer Budd, American U.S. Consul General in East Pakistan at that time, and I actually showed him the bodies of my colleagues at Dhaka University, who were brutally killed on the night of 25th when the crackdown started. And I was professor at Dhaka University at that time, and it was very painful for me to lose my colleagues and also the professors who I got when I was a student of Dhaka University in the 1950s. So it was very, very painful experience, and Mr. Saigal's point is very well taken. But I think Pakistan owes a formal apology to Bangladeshis for the selective genocide committed during that time, for the gross violation of human rights, and the need to have justice for, quote and unquote, the absent. So I think this is a very serious issue, and it has to be done.
It has
in the
to
right
be addressed.
way.
Okay, let me get Mr. Saigal here, and then Moeed, I think you want to add something to it. Mr. Saigal, let's get your point on this one. Mr. Saigal, were you able to hear what Mr. Zillur Rehman said?
Yes, I heard it very clearly, and I've got great respect for Dr. Zillur Rehman. In fact, if you'll remember, we were on a panel together, anti-corruption panel a few years ago in Dhaka. The point is that I, as a helicopter pilot, saw the way the Biharis were killed from 2nd March, 25th March, in out-of-the-way places. And even when you talk about selective genocide, that was genocide too. I saw what happened on 4th April because I was sent by the Commander Eastern Command to go and see what has happened in TNT Colony and Firozshah Colony next to the Chittagong railway station. That thing. So, the fact and what Dr. Zillur Rehman said is also right. I also studied in Dhaka University, and I am telling you frankly, I was upset when on 26, 27 March, I didn't see the bodies myself, but I heard about it and credible eyewitnesses, and I was upset even as a Pakistan Army officer to this thing. And it is also true, there is no doubt about it, that there was killing by the Pakistan Army throughout April, May, June, July, whatever. The point is that atrocities were committed. The quantum, you cannot, at this time find out, but there was certainly the quantum was greater from the Pakistani side. My point is that an apology was given. I don't think there is something more to it when a prime minister of a country goes to a tomb of an unknown soldier, of a soldier that has fought against his country, and puts a wreath there and says he regrets and what happened. And even then, General Sharaf, who himself was a soldier, and when he went to Bangladesh, he was in uniform as a chief of army staff, and he also said the same thing. So, look, time to go put the past behind us. Put the past behind us and go forward from here. We have a long history with Bangladesh, and I have much more. My father raised the 2nd Battalion of the East Bengal Regiment on 7 February 1949. I was commissioned in the East Bengal Regiment. Dr. Zillur Rehman will bear people out that, how much, I loved my regiment. And, for me, it was a traumatic shock what happened. But,
So you're saying it's time to move on. Moeed, I felt like you want to add something here.
Look, I don't have the experience of the two gentlemen. And so I wouldn't, I cannot feel what they do. My point is very simple. Countries are not empathetic individuals. They're not looking to show sympathy. They're not naturally attuned to that. That said, what is clear is that as both sort of individuals are saying, there were atrocities on both sides. But there were atrocities against human beings, against individuals. And so whatever needs to be done to satisfy the other side, of course, diplomacy then needs you to sit together and wordsmith and come up with something which is acceptable to both sides. I think that process is needed. Whether the final word is apology or regret or whatever it is, both sides need to go through that process and put this behind them after they come to a solution and move on.
Dr. Zillur Rehman, do you agree that both sides need to sit together and maybe an apology from Pakistan, but also a counter apology or regret for the killing of Biharis and some of the... Definitely.
Yeah, because actually my brother-in-law and I saved a Bihari family from being harassed, and probably why do we not intervene? So, of course, but again, as I mentioned, there were incidents of the attacks on Biharis and killings, but again, what the Pakistani army did, it was a genocide at the highest order.
What in your opinion makes the killing of Biharis different from the killing that the Pakistani army did? I want to hear from you.
I tell you, I am not an eyewitness account to the killing of Biharis, but I'm an eyewitness of the killing of Bengali professionals, intellectuals by the Pakistan army. And I took the U.S. Consul General, Archer Blood, with me to the site where my colleagues were killed in Dhaka University. I'm an eyewitness. I haven't seen the Biharis killing, so I cannot relate to that. Okay?
Right.
So what I'm saying is that we are dealing with two largest Muslim countries of the world. Two of the three largest Muslim countries of the world. Indonesia, Pakistan, Bangladesh. These are the three largest Muslim countries. The Arab countries are no match for these two countries in terms of the Muslim population. So I think the second and third largest Muslim countries must make some kind of a compromise, because compromise is the basis of civilization.
Okay, so we seem to agree on something. You guys at least seem to agree on something, that there needs to be an apology from both sides. Mr. Ikram Sehgal, I want to come to you. You say that there's no need anymore, that it's time to move on. Do you think if Bangladesh also agrees to say put out some kind of statement that the killing of Biharis was also as regrettable, then would Pakistan be able to use the word apology and move on?
I think, frankly speaking, I would rather go with what Dr. Moeed Yusuf has said, that it needs some architecture in the word making, something which, an acceptable formula which satisfies both sides. I think, if the Bangladeshi side insists that an apology is necessary, fine. I think it is a fact. Atrocities were committed, and okay, if you don't want to move on and go back to that, all right. But at that same time, in reciprocation, there must be some form of regret from the Bangladeshi side also, because then that would tantamount to accepting one side of the story, where the fact is, even though Dr. Zillur Rehman was not eyewitness, I was. And I think Dr. Zillur Rehman will bear me out when I say I'm a credible eyewitness. All right? I'm a credible eyewitness because I saw with my own eyes the burnt out remains of TNT colony, Firozshah colony, and countless railway stations where Bihari population, because they used to be in the railways, they used to run the railways in then East Pakistan. It's not correct. If you want to go back to the past, and if you want to, make some sort of a adjustment, a word adjustment, like Dr. Yusuf has been saying, let's do it. But let's move on beyond it. I mean, it's too much. 40 years down the road, I don't want to. The trauma was too much for me. I don't want to go back to that road. I don't want to see. I never want to see my father's people killing my mother's people, and my mother's people killing my father's people. And the fact of the matter remains, it did happen. Right, and so let's get on with it.
Let's talk about Mr. Sehgal. Let's talk about getting on with it. Dr. Zillur Rehman, along with an apology, what the Bangladeshi government asked Pakistan to do was to arrange for the stranded Pakistanis, most of whom are Biharis in Bangladesh, to come to Pakistan. Isn't that so?
That's right.
That's right.
I have seen the refugee camps and the Biharis. I have done extensive interview of the Bihari populations in Dhaka. This is the Mirpur area, Mohammadpur, Mirpur area, and interestingly, people who are under 30, they don't want to go anywhere. They're already, they have their professions. They are in the meat business. They are in garment business. But people over 40, they would rather be in Pakistan than in Bangladesh. So there is some kind of a division within the Bihari populations living in Bangladesh today.
Okay, so and Dr. Zillur Rehman, I read a figure of 250,000. Can you give me a better idea of what the figure of the people are who want to go to Pakistan?
I would say at least 50 to 60,000, at least.
50 to 60,000. Okay, let me read a Facebook comment about this very issue. Dr. Zillur Rehman, and then Ikram Sehgal and Moeed, I want to come to you. Mr. Rehan wrote on our Facebook page, Pakistan must apologize to Bangladesh for alleged atrocities. Pakistan should also do something for the people of Pakistan, commonly known as stranded Pakistanis. They deserve Pakistani nationality and respect from the people of Pakistan. Ikram Sehgal Sahab, I want to ask you, what is stopping Pakistan? What stopped Pakistan for all the 4 decades to get those people who wanted to be Pakistani citizens, who were Pakistani citizens, stranded in Bangladesh, bring them here, give them passports?
Let me tell you, Aisha, this is a black mark on Pakistan. They're not stranded Pakistanis, they are Pakistanis, right? And they want to come back. This is their country. If we can host 3 million ungrateful Afghan refugees, we can certainly get back 50, 60,000 or 100,000 Pakistanis back to Bangladesh. It is unthinkable that we should leave them there. They were Pakistanis, they are Pakistanis still, and they deserve to come back to their soil. This is something that I totally agree with Dr. Zillur Rehman. This is something that is something that you cannot live with your conscience as a Pakistani, that these people who, in 1971 they said they're Pakistanis, and in 2012 they said they're Pakistanis, and that we should leave them beyond there. And we should, how many 3 million Afghan refugees, 200,000 Burmese Arakanis here, 200,000 Iranians here, 50,000 Iraqis here, you name it, we have the population. And we cannot get back 100,000 people of our own people back. This is abominable.
What's keeping them there, Moeed? Do we have any idea that sheer incompetence?
I couldn't agree more. I think you've got a fair bit of convergence on your show on everything, the apology part as well as this. I think if Dr. Zillur Rehman, as he's saying, if there's a generational gap in the views, I think people who want to come back to Pakistan should be allowed to come back. Pakistan should take them, and they should be Pakistani citizens. The next generation, if they're Bangladeshi in their mind, they want to be there, Bangladesh should give them citizenship. It's not, they're caught up on the wrong side of history. And between two countries who are being selfish in the way they're operating. So I think the human lens says basically at this point there should be an exception made. Wherever they want to be, they should be declared citizens of that country and move on. I just don't see why we're not doing it.
Why we're not doing it. Let's talk about why we're not doing it. Dr. Zillur Rehman, the younger generation that you said wants to stay in Bangladesh, do they have Bangladeshi nationality?
Some of them. Some of them have got it through marriage.
They don't automatically. They don't, Dr. Zillur Rehman. They don't automatically have it. They don't automatically have it. They have to get it through marriage. I mean, how else can they get it? After all, they were born in Bangladesh.
Absolutely. I think this is an issue that I'm very serious about. And I go to Bangladesh and I also talk to some of the policymakers, and I have raised this issue on several occasions. And they just want to skirt this issue. I don't know for what reason they want to skirt this issue. I say, hey, these are the younger people. They are completely absorbed. And even if they are not married into Bengali families, they should be allowed to have Bangladeshi citizenship. And every time I raise this issue, the policymakers somehow manage to skirt this issue.
So, and Dr. Zillur Rehman, are you saying, is there public support in Bangladesh for giving those younger people Bangladeshi nationality?
Yes, there is a support.
And the policymakers will still not take it up. So let me ask Mr. Ikram Sehgal, is there public support for bringing the Pakistanis back to Pakistan who are in Bangladesh now?
Look, here's politics here. The problem is that $300 million were raised to get them back, fly them back to Pakistan. And those funds are still lying somewhere, I don't know where. The point is that here politics was played in the sense that the Sindhis here felt that most of them would come to Sindh, and already there was a Mahajir community here. They would add to that Mahajir community. And, that politics sort of made sure that they would not come back. So even though, lip service was given to the fact that the Pakistanis there would be sent back to Pakistan, there really was no will among the rulers of Pakistan at that time, and starting with Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, who himself was a Sindhi to start with, to get the people back. So ultimately, the fact of the matter remains the Punjabis, the Pathans, the Baloch, they will all ride the back. But in the end, they know that they're not going to stay there. They're going to stay in the south of the country and most probably in and around Karachi, Hyderabad, whatever. So I think that is the fear that keeps anybody within the government, a backlash of public opinion within Pakistan, within the ethnic Sindhis, that keeps anybody from taking any step in that direction.
Moeed, that's a very domestic political issue, and Pakistan is not the only country where it's seen domestic politics take over the humanitarian or international issues. Do we have examples? I mean, can we give them areas in other provinces where they can settle down, maybe together, because they might not want to come to a new country?
Stateless people is a global problem. I mean, there are a number of ethnicities, number of peoples who've gone through, been on the wrong side and gotten stuck in this situation. I am not at all for this ghettoization, that here is your space, you're here, we don't want you to go anywhere else. If they're going to be declared Pakistanis, there is free mobility for every Pakistani citizen throughout Pakistan. And so they should be allowed the same thing. You're talking of 60,000 people. 60,000 people in Karachi do not matter.
Exactly.
Whether it's electorally, whether it's economically, you're talking of a city of 18 million. So I think there's a bit of Machiavellian politics which is not letting this happen. But really, it's not going to make any difference when you have all these other nationalities who are Pakistani and non-Pakistani living in Pakistan. I think this is really made up to a point.
Okay, now we're towards the end of our show, and I wanted to bring it up. I didn't have time. Ikram Sehgal, one issue that people in Pakistan discuss, and I want to ask you, you're a former army man, but I'm sure you have contacts with the army now. How does the Pakistani army feel about the whole thing? What's the inside? What's their feeling about what happened? Do they feel that they're partially responsible? Do they regret it? Or do they feel that it was the fog of war, the heat of war?
I think there is genuine regret in the Pakistan army. No army likes to wage war on defenseless people, right? And soldiers, and the fact of the matter remains that, unfortunately, of course, the Pakistan army's got the blame. But the actual fact remained that it was the civil armed forces, the police and the rangers, the frontier corps, they went amok a little bit. And because the generic name of the Pakistan army got most of the blame. I think there is genuine regret in the Pakistan army, and there's no doubt about it. Obviously, nobody wants to come out and, say that outright. But in all the conversations that I've had, and, I'm one of those people who suffered because my army career was cut short because I raised this question in 1971, even when I escaped from India. So the point is that, at that time I suffered.
So, Mr. Sehgal, I'm only interrupting you because we're in the last 2 minutes of the show, and I really want to bring it in. Some people in Pakistan say the army may say it regrets it, but it didn't learn anything because they're doing the same thing in Balochistan. What do you...
To raise that point. Mr. Sehgal's point is well taken. And Tikka Khan was put in charge of East Pakistan during time.
Dr. Zillur Rahman Khan, yes, I do get that. Let's get Mr. Ikram Sehgal to answer that point. The Pakistan army is doing the same things in Balochistan, some people say.
No, Ayesha, that's not correct. The Pakistan army is not really operating in Balochistan. Again, it's a generic thing. It is there is Frontier Corps, IGFC, the Inspector General Frontier Corps, the civil armed forces, which is there at places. But there is no army operation going on in Balochistan. There was an army operation which resulted in the death of Akbar Bukhti. But Akbar Bukhti himself went out in a cavalcade from Dera Bukhti announcing the fact that he would lead a revolt.
Okay, and so let's, Moeed, last few seconds, Moeed, you seem to disagree.
I would agree to this point that you cannot compare the two situations, but excesses in Bangladesh are very, in Balochistan are obvious. The Supreme Court is taking it up, and I don't think we should fall in the trap of saying, well, again, because it's not the army, it's the FC, it's not our problem. It really should be handled as excesses. Yes, not comparable. But if we go down the same road, are we actually...
You never make the same mistake again, but it's a similar mistake.
It's certainly not comparable. I accept that. But the point is, if you're doing something in Balochistan, your own Supreme Court is coming out and asking, I think we really need to look at it and mend fences with what is going on.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That's all the time we have today, I would like to thank our guests before I leave. We had Moeed Yusuf of USIP, Ikram Sehgal, the defense analyst, Dr. Zillur Rehman of Wisconsin University. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us, and thank you for watching the show. You know where our Facebook page is. Leave your comments there. Tell us if you like the show. Tell us about future topics. We'll look forward to them. And goodbye and good night from Ayesha Tanzeem and all of Access Point team. Hello and welcome to your Access Point to Washington. I'm Ayesha Tanzeem. Decades after the war that severed Pakistan and created Bangladesh, the wounds have not healed completely. Bangladesh has once again asked Pakistan to apologize for the alleged atrocities committed by its military in 1971. Is it time for Pakistan to apologize to Bangladesh? Let's find out. Joining me in studios is Moeed Yusuf of the United States Institute of Peace. On Skype from Pakistan, we have Ikram Sehgal, a renowned defense analyst and the first Pakistani prisoner of war to escape from India. And on the phone with us is Dr. Zillur Rehman Khan, Professor Emeritus at Wisconsin University.
In the helicopter, we flew to the tomb of the unknown soldier in Savar. And Sharaf not only apologized, but, in a wreath for the...
Okay, Mr. Sehgal, for some reason, we cannot hear you properly. We only heard part of what you said, so I'll come back to you on that question. Let me talk to Moeed. In the meantime, we'll figure out why we cannot hear you. Moeed, do you think that, what Mr. Sehgal said, that what's happened so far, he's talking about Nawaz Sharif, who went and apologized, Musharraf, and I have what he wrote right here with me, when he visited the memorial outside Dhaka, which is dedicated to...
In terms of accepting that there were atrocities or there were sort of excesses committed on both sides. Apologies for countries are really sort of symbolic. I don't think anything changes with this. We've never tested the waters in Pakistan, whether there is public support for that. But I think there's enough literature out there which says that things happened on both sides, they were regrettable. And so whether it's an apology, whether it's a regret, I think at this point, it's critical for both sides to move on.
Right.
I think Bangladesh perhaps has to learn from Pakistan's experience, India's experience, not get caught up in one thing which damages future relations. Pakistan has to realize that if it's in the best interest of both sides, perhaps it should find a way which is acceptable to it and to Bangladesh to move forward.
University and president of the Bangladesh Foundation. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. And I will go with each of you, but I want to bring, first of all, Dr. Zillur Rehman Khan for the Bangladeshi side. Dr. Khan, why do you think now is the right time for Pakistan to apologize to Bangladesh? Dr. Khan, can you hear me? Okay, we can't hear Dr. Khan right now. I'll find out why or why not, but Moeed Yusuf, is it time for Pakistan to apologize?
Look, I think it's not about the timing. I mean, this is not the first time this request has been made. The real question is, should Pakistan not apologize? And if it's apologizing, does it also expect something in return from Bangladesh?
Now, Mr. Ikram Sehgal, I want to ask you, as Moeed just pointed out, Bangladesh should learn and not get caught up on this one thing. And we found out that Bangladesh Prime Minister wasn't coming to the Developing Eight meeting in Islamabad with President Zardari and other countries. It wasn't said officially, but everyone thought it's because she wanted Pakistan to apologize, so she sent somebody else on her behalf. Do you think this issue is affecting relationship in any significant way?
Yes, it is. The fact remains that an apology has been given, and Hasina Wajid asked for an apology earlier also, and I was present at that point with Nawaz Sharif in Dhaka when Dhaka